I'm Brian Professor B. Davis. This is your San Francisco 49ers preview podcast on Niners Radio. Your 2-3 San Francisco 49ers will be taking on the 4-1 Los Angeles Rams at Levis Stadium, known as the Mecca in Santa Clara. They'll be playing for NBC's Sunday Night Football. The Niners look for their third consecutive win over the Rams after winning both matchups in 2019 as your defending NFC champions with a big 34-31 win over the Rams on Saturday Night Football back in Week 16 in the season's next to last weekend of the regular season. The 49ers are coming off a loss to the Miami Dolphins in San Francisco's offense led by their rushing attack, with the Niners rushing for 131 yards with one touchdown on 19 carries, average of 6.9 yards an average. Fullback Kyle Juszczyk scored on a 7-yard rushing touchdown, his second career rushing touchdown, with his other coming in 2016 as a member of the Baltimore Ravens. Running back Raheem Mostert returned to the field after missing the previous two games. He finished with 11 carries for 90 yards, average 8.2 yards an average. C.J. Beathard connected with wide receiver Kendrick Bourne for a 19-yard touchdown, marking Bourne's first touchdown of the 2020 season. Defensively, the Niners held the Dolphins to 94 rushing yards on 33 carries, averaged 2.8 yards average. Defensive lineman Kerry Hyder Jr. registered 2 tackles and 1 sack of Dolphins quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick. He has registered at least a half sack in 4 of the team's first 5 games. Linebacker Quan Alexander finished with 5 tackles and 1 sack of Fitzpatrick, his first sack of the season. By the numbers, in 6 career games, Rams tight end against the Rams, George Kittle registered at least 32 receptions for 537 yards, average 16 yards, and 3 touchdowns, including 3 games for 100 or more receiving yards. San Francisco's 8 rushing touchdowns in 2020, tied for the third most in NFL, with Dallas, the Rams, Arizona, Cleveland, Minnesota, and New Orleans. Among qualifying rushers, running back Raheem Mostert's 707 average among per carry marks him first in the NFL among running backs in 2020, and second among players Kyler Murray with the Arizona Cardinals. Defensive lineman Kerry Hyder Jr. registered 4 games with half sack more this season. He's one of 9 players in the NFL to do so, one with Nick Bosa's brother Joey Bosa for the LA Chargers, Aaron Donald for the Rams, Myles Garrett for the Browns, Trey Hendrickson for New Orleans, Justin Houston for Indianapolis, Yannick Ngakoue, Minnesota, Emmanuel Ogbah for Miami, and Jason Pierre-Paul for Tampa Bay. The 49ers going into this game on the injury report, quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo on Friday, his ankle, he will play on Sunday. Linebackers Quan Alexander and Dante Johnson will both be ruled out with ankle injuries. Also for the Niners, Emmanuel Mosley with a concussion, he'll be listed as questionable, and also running back Jeffrey Wilson with a calf, he'll be listed as questionable. On the Rams side of their injury report, linebacker Ogbonga Okonkwo elbow, he's been ruled out. Micah with a groin, he will also be ruled out for this Sunday night's contest. This marks the 138th time that both these long two California rivals will meet, with this series going way back since 1950. The 49ers own the edge 71, 67, and 3. They're 35 and 34 at home, and they're 36 and 33 and 1 against the Rams away from the Bay Area. Also for Sunday night, the San Francisco 49ers will be taking things back to 1984 with their throwback-inspired alternate white uniforms for this Sunday night game against the Rams. This game also will be sponsored by Cache Creek Casino Resort, Northern California's premier casino destination. You get away, it doesn't have to be far away. We're located at the Cappy Valley, just outside the Sacramento area. We've got the latest slots, table games, entertainment, as well as your favorite resort amenities. Catch in at Cache Creek Casino Resort. For the 49ers organization and for the 49ers family that had suffered a tragic loss this week. Fred Dean, the fearsome pass rusher who was a key of the part of the launch of the 49ers dynasty, had died this past week at the age of 68. His death late night Wednesday night was confirmed by Thursday by Pro Football Hall of Famer in fame in Canton, Ohio. Dean was hospitalized last week with coronavirus on a ventilator in intensive care, according to former teammate Dwight Hooks. The 49ers are heartbroken to learn of the passing of one of the game's greats. Fred Dean, the team said in a statement, Fred was not only impacted by countless opposing quarterbacks throughout his career, but also featured the game of one of the NFL's true pass rushing specialists. Dean was an undersized pass rusher who began his career as a second-round pick with the San Diego Chargers in 1975 and ended in the Hall of Fame after being named consensus All-Pro twice and making 4 Pro Bowls. Dean was an All-Pro for the Chargers in 1980, but his biggest impact when he was being traded to San Francisco during the 1981 season. While it cannot be said that Fred Dean's greatness as an NFL player begins when he came with the Niners in 1981, I could say as the owner of the team that the greatness will begin with for the 49ers begin with Fred Dean's arrival in San Francisco. Former 49ers owner Eddie DeBartolo said when he was introduced Dean at his Hall of Fame induction. Dean's career in San Diego ended in an ugly contract dispute in 1981, and he was traded to San Francisco in October. He credited the trade for reviving his career. I actually stepped on the other side for a minute and breathed in the air, looked as a rainbow, he said, before being inducted to the Hall of Fame. I made it clear on the side of the rainbow for me. The pot was gold. It was a difference made for me altogether. I felt free to perform once I got there. The Niners were just starting to take off under Coach Bill Walsh and quarterback Joe Montana, and Dean was the final piece that they needed to become champions. The Niners were 3-2 when Dean arrived, with hopes of ending in 8 years of misery with a playoff drought. After a couple of practices, Dean played his first game with the Niners just days before arriving in a Week 6 matchup against Dallas. Bill Walsh told me they hadn't beaten him in a while. Dean recalled, it was in the paper. Everything that they said had it not for me. It was a platform to prove the point that I still could do it. He did just that, dominating Dallas' offensive line in a 45-14 mollywopping over America's team proved to be the difference and the turning point, giving San Francisco home field advantage throughout the playoffs in the NFC. Sacks was not an official statistic yet, but Dean reportedly had 2.5 in that game against several other pressures and penalties drawn. San Francisco then would win the rematch against the Cowboys 3 months later in the NFC title game, 28-17, the catch by Dwight Clark, and a pass from Montana. The Niners won their first Super Bowl 2 weeks later against the Cincinnati Bengals at the Pontiac Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. Dean played 4 more seasons in San Francisco, winning a second Super Bowl following the 1984 season. Dean had 7 sacks, 93 tackles, and 4 fumbles recoveries in his rookie year. His career was 93.5 sacks equivalent to the 49ers, but his number was unofficial until sacks became an official NFL stat until 1982. Unofficially, 15.5 sacks in 1978 contributed 12 sacks in 11 games for the 49ers in 1981. Dean was also inducted. Also, I consider being born by the Chargers, but have renewal life with to the Niners, Dean said in his Hall of Fame speech. And being with the 49ers, I found that the other side of that bridge, that other side of my rainbow, the true ending of the rainbow, not financially, but with all the people. Fred Dean, dead at the age of 68. 49ers pregame live will be on NBC at 4 o'clock. Then it's countdown to kickoff with the virtual pregame show That'll be at 4:15. Countdown to Kickoff. Tune in to the Countdown Kickoff pregame show this week as we celebrate Alumni Weekend presented by Devicon Construction. The show will highlight storied history of the franchise and recognize the players that helped create the countless memories of the faithful. With interviews, trivia, download the 49ers official app, iOS/Android. The 49ers will take on the Los Angeles Rams for Sunday Night Football. The kickoff time will be at 5:20 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on NBC. Calling the game will be Michaels and Chris Collinsworth, along with sideline reporter Michelle DeFoya. The game will also be seen on KNBR 680, 104.5 FM, and 107.7 FM The Bone as Greg Papa and Tim Ryan will give you the play-by-play action. Prior to Sunday Night Football on NBC with the Niners and Rams, also will be Football Night in America, hosted by Mike Torico, along with former Super Bowl winning coach and Hall of Fame great Tony Dungy, also along with former Super Bowl champion of the Patriots Rodney Harrison, and with Mike Florio, and along with Liam McHugh and Chris Sims. That will be all coming up at 4 o'clock. Football Night in America is preceded before the Niners take on the Los Angeles Rams at Levis Stadium in Santa Clara. Football is a game of heart and hunger, so while you visit or watch the 49ers play hungry, you can get free food as well. This season, when the 49ers score 2 or more touchdowns in a game, you will score a free Jumbo Jack with a large drink purchase at your participating Jack in the Box location the next day. Get ready to work up an appetite. Niners Radio Podcast will begin pregame live at the Arena Sportsnet studios, hosted by yours truly, Brian Professor B. Davis, at approximately 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll give you the preview right up to kickoff as your San Francisco 49ers coming in with a 2-3 record in a must-win situation to get back to stay in the race in the ultra-competitive NFC West. Will go on the air at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Niners Radio Live right before kickoff. We'll also give you halftime scores, and we'll have postgame as well. For the latest news on 49ers football and so much more, go to 49ers.com. I'm Brian Professor B. Davis, and you've been listening to the 49ers podcast on Niners Radio. Niners Radio is an association with the Arena Sportsnet Bay Area.